Good evening. We'll call our Budget and Subcommittee meeting to order. Tonight, we'll get the quarterly budget status report from Mr. Mulaney, and there's a request in there, I believe, for moving some money around. Transfers officially, right? You have the floor, Mr. Mulaney. Hold on.
The 9-month expenditure is before you, the salary budget and the expense budget. And we've projected out through the end of
Tap
the...
your mic, Jimmy. Okay.
And we've projected out the total salary cost going through the year. Currently, we're looking at the overall picture as a surplus on the salary side and expense, the deficit on the expense side, and that's why we want to make some transfers. The academic classroom teachers, we anticipate that we'll have about a $1.5 million surplus due principally to more breakage than we had originally budgeted for, as well as mid-year breakage that we've had, and a few positions that hadn't been filled, and we had long-term subs in them, but they are all filled now, if I believe. Academic programs, we're anticipating a surplus of $794,869. In academic support, the instructional line, we anticipate a surplus of $267,666. The majority of the rest of them are going to be in deficits. The clerical in deficit of $49,131. The directors are in deficit of $51,818. That's due principally to retirement and paying out the sick and vacation days. Department heads, a deficit of $15,624. Principals, again, this is a deficit of $18,478, and there is for paying out sick days for retiring principals, specifically assistant principals who retired. The aides line, we're anticipating a deficit of $653,000. We've got a significant number of aides that we're working now that were not budgeted. They're all basically special ed. And on the plus side, this is helping us to reduce the overall cost of the tuitions going out. They're providing much needed services for the students and preventing students from being tuitioned out. So overall, we're looking at a $621,000 deficit, $621,219 deficit in the academic support. Non-academic support, I'll just go briefly through these. The clerical, a small deficit. Custodial, we're anticipating a $52,000 deficit. Maintenance, a small deficit. Security, a small surplus. The attendance, that's principally the bus attendance, we're looking at $36,000 surplus. Drivers, we're anticipating a $3,874 surplus. We're anticipating a larger one at the December quarterly budget. And since then, we've hired a significant number of drivers. We're hoping to get them all on the road and take back a lot of the outside vendors we're using for our special ed students. So that'll help out in the cost associated with special ed transportation. Messengers, a small surplus. Part-time clerical, be a surplus. Part-time professional, there's a $287,570 deficit, and those are for what we call the CODAs, the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants. We've hired a number of them, again, to provide services to keep our special ed tuition line down and to reduce agency costs for when we don't have staff that can do it. We have to go to an outside agency, which is far more expensive than our own employees. Overtime, we anticipate $127,000 principally deficit, principally for custodial. There's an awful lot of work that's being done in the buildings, and it requires a custodian to be in over the weekends and at nights. So it's the reason we're running a deficit in that line item. And overall, we anticipate a deficit of non-academic support of 89,257. So there's a net surplus in salaries of $1,611,249. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the salary side before we go to the expenses.
Questions, any of the members at this point?
Okay. So on the expense side, we're basically 3/4 through the year. We've put a freeze on expenses. Right now, if a school needs anything, we'll obviously meet the needs that they have. We'll work with all of them to make sure that nobody is without any supplies or techs that they need. But currently, we're anticipating not a whole lot of expenditures to be coming out. So we're looking at the largest, or the two large items, tuitions. We're anticipating a $1.2 million deficit. That's actually a $2.2 million deficit, but we're getting an additional $1 million in circuit breaker than we had budgeted for. So we'll need $1.2 million for the tuition line. We're looking at savings from all our expenses. The translation services, we're using a grant that we'll be using to fund a significant portion of the translation services for the rest of the year. And we feel that that'll be available to us for going after other expenses. The supplies, as I said, we've frozen, so we're having $170,932 surplus. Overall, for the academic expenses, we're anticipating an $826,000 deficit. For non-academic expenses, we're anticipating, fortunately, the heating season is coming to an end, although it's snapped back a couple of times this week. We're anticipating a $484,000 surplus in natural gas. Repairs, a surplus of $42,787. The transportation, we're anticipating a deficit of $1,525,000, taking into account that we will have taking back some of the routes from outside vendors. And then basically all the other non-academic expenses freezing for a total of $784,682 in the non-academic expense deficit. So a total expense deficit of $1,610,726. And we have a surplus of $1,611,249, which basically balances out the two. One of the items that we do have, we are the textbook line. We have a significant amount that's available in that line. Right now, we're looking at earmarking that to some purchases, Alexia specifically. But in the worst-case scenario, that would be available to us to help with other expenses later on. So that's where the budget stands currently. So what we're looking for is the authorization to move monies into the the tuitions and the transportation line items from the various line items before you.
Any questions? Anybody? Mr. Guttrow?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jim. So help me to understand, on the first page, you said that the aides were basically to offset tuitions because they were in-house around special ed, but yet the special ed tuitions has a deficit of 1.2 million, well, 2.2 million, but we've got
Correct.
circuit breaker.
Well, I was discussing this earlier with the mayor, and he asked me to just get a little bit of information. I have it briefly, and we're going to present it in greater detail during the budget meetings.
Okay.
Our tuition line has not increased in the past 4 years. Fortunately now, the number of students we have out remarkably has come down to the lowest it's been in probably 10 years. Special ed department has been working real hard to keep students in, and the DeCristofaro Center has obviously been a big help.
So the aides are for the DeCristofaro Center?
Excuse me?
Are the aides for the DeCristofaro
A
Center?
lot of them are for that, yes.
Okay.
They're spread through other special ed
More than
classes.
we anticipated when we did the budget?
Not too many more, but there are just the needs throughout the whole system, because we have other special ed programs that aren't that's, would have the CARES classes elsewhere. And
But, so has tuition costs just gone up?
yeah, so I just took a couple that, from 21 to 24, I took a sampling, and we're going to have a more in-depth look at it. But the Beverly School for the Deaf has gone from $116,000 a year in 2021 to $156,000, a 34% increase over that time.
Yeah.
The Bi-County Collaborative has gone from $130,000 to $185,000,
I got you.
which is a 42% increase.
Yep.
The Boston Higashi School has gone from $237,000 to $284,000.
Yep.
Judge Baker from $105,000 to $131,000. Landmark has gone up from $58,000 to $92,000. The May Institute's gone from $122,000 to $146,000. The Perkins School for the Blind from $122,000 to $163,000. And the Collaborative from $70,549 to $79,321. So even the Collaboratives have gone up 12%, where we've held our budget line at 0. So there's been some significant increase in the tuitions. We're constantly getting notices of reconstructive services from DZ about increases in the tuitions at these schools. So it's
Will students that are going to any of these schools subsequently be managed through the DeChrist Faro Center, or will we still need to have those schools?
a lot of
Maybe
these.
maybe I can jump in on that one. I think we talked about that before with Dr. Creedon, in that we feel the savings over time is going to be as kids come into our system and stay in our system rather than going out
Right.
for tuition. Because the continuity is very important to these kids. So a change, another transition wouldn't be a good thing.
Well, I know, yeah, I know,
I
I
think
know they're,
we're,
I know they're not.
So it's
coming
really
back.
going forward
Yeah.
that we'll see the
No, I understand.
change.
I was just saying, do any of those schools have like a specialty that no matter what, we're going to have to send? Yes, they do. And so do any not have a specialty, I guess is the question, that we would keep in-house?
I mean,
Of the 5 you mentioned?
I think, the South Shore Collaborative would still be using, I think you'd be looking more towards like the May Institute or the Higashi School.
Yeah, so sorry. So Mr. Mulaney's correct. The tuition costs in the out-of-district programs have skyrocketed. They've gone up exponentially. I know Julie's going to be presenting on this, I think at the Special Education Subcommittee as well, but we have about 157, 156 students currently in out-of-district placements, which is significantly less. I think about a year or maybe 2 years ago, we were almost at 180. And I would absolutely attribute that to the opening of the DeChrist Faro Center. We probably had about 15 students we would have been looking at otherwise sending out just last year alone. But it is definitely a program for a certain population of students. It's for students with autism. So we still have, students with mental health issues, students with significant learning disabilities, things like that, that might need an alternative program other than what we can offer in the district.
Understood.
I think we're very fortunate. We have a wide range of programming, and so as a result, we really have not. I don't know if we've sent any kids out this year out of district. So this actually has been a really good year for us. The problem is just that the cost of the tuitions has really increased exponentially.
Got it. Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Guttrow?
One last question, and could you just explain the transportation one again?
Well, we, for this year, as you know, we had to lease out the big buses, use a vendor for that, so that was a large cost. Additionally, we have a large number of special ed students that require transportation that our drivers can't provide 100% for. We're looking at plans for next year, and we'll be in the budget for perhaps, getting some vans, 7D vans, as opposed to just buses. I think now with the new salary, Quincy is a very attractive place to work, especially if we had more 7D drivers. And that would be a significant savings, taking these back from the outside vendors.
Thank you. That's it.
Mrs. Perdios.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim, for this. So are we going to be, and my main question was the one Mr. Guttrow asked, but are we, for next year's budget, going to be looking to increase that tuition line item so we're not in this position next year?
Would be our recommendation, yes.
Okay, so, all right, that's a good thing. And I do look forward to hearing more about that detailed breakdown that you were talking about, so that's great. Couple additional questions I had. So for supplies, on the second page here, under expenses, it looks like we have $170,000 surplus. Can you just describe what supplies that's referring to?
Yes, there's a number of, every school has its own supply line. In addition to that, there is a system-wide supply line that typically what we do is we purchase the paper, if we can, we purchase the paper at the end of this year, so it's delivered and doesn't come out of the budget, which gives us a little cushion, so about $70,000 of that is in their supplies. So we will not be doing that. We'll be using next year's budget to fund all the supply expenses for next year.
Okay, I'm just wondering, instead of kind of reallocating that money, are classroom teachers kind of allowed to dip into that? I mean, I know, there's never enough classroom supplies that teachers are kind of buying on their own and asking parents to donate. Is that something that teachers could go into at all, or? for that type
No,
of
not really. We
equipment?
never,
No.
we don't,
Separate.
we give them, every school gets an allocation based on its population. The principals will allocate it to the individual teachers who will then request what they purchase, and the secretaries will put those requisitions in typically in the summer. They'll load them into the system, and then we will release them in the new fiscal year. In addition to that, there's the professional discretionary line. I don't know if you noticed that. That's $450 allocated to each individual teacher to use for whatever educational purpose they decide. And it can be supplies in the classroom. It can be courses to maintain their license. And that's why that amount is expected to be fully expended.
Okay, yeah, I just asked because I know, you only have to have one kid in the system to know how many requests of, hey, we could always use, Kleenex and wipes and everything, and it's actually oftentimes in the school supply list going back to, for the back-to-school list. So I just didn't know if there was a way we could use some of that overage to help with any of that need, maybe in future budgets to come or something like that.
But I mean, right now, if we were to use that money, we would be in a deficit overall, so we wouldn't be able to
Right.
cover the other expenses.
Right, gotcha. And my last question was, for the, you had mentioned on the transportation that we've hired some new people, and you expect that outside expense for transportation is going to come down. How significantly do you anticipate that's going to be impacted by the new hires that we have now?
For the current year, not a huge amount. We will be pulling back from outside vendors for the in-city transportation. Next year, it'll be a significant savings because we won't be using a vendor for the large school buses. Our plan right now is to use our own drivers and basically get up to the number of drivers that we've had budgeted before. And I think we'll have a very good chance of, not even a good chance, we will do that.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? Mr. Begoli?
Any move-ins that have increased the tuitions?
We get them
Yeah, we
occasionally.
have had a few move-ins, yep.
Significant amount, or?
I think all of the tuitions right now are pretty significant. Typically, there's like an April 1st rule, so if a student moves in, prior to April 1st, then, that district owns that student until the end of the school year. But if they move in after April 1st, then we end up having to pick up that tuition.
Thank you.
Just for purposes of the public, this is a large budget. This is something that happens every year towards the end of the year. Similar, council, remember on the city side, we do year-end transfers. You get surpluses in some areas, deficits in others, so this is not untypical. So I know it'll be at a future meeting. We'll act as a full body. You don't need this tonight, right, James?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
Adjourn the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular school committee meeting for April 9th, 2025. Call to order, please, Superintendent.
Mr. Begoli? Present. Mrs. Cahill?
Present.
Mr. Guttrow? Present. Mrs. Hubley? Present. Mrs. Lebo? Present. Mrs. Perdios? Present. Mayor Coe?
Present.
Quincy High School Student Representative Mishti Malavia? Thank you. And North Quincy High School Student Representative Tabitha Lee. Thank you.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have any in memoriams tonight, so move on to open forum. Open forum portion of the meeting is an opportunity for community input regarding the Quincy Public Schools. Community in this context is defined as a resident of the city of Quincy, a non-resident parent of a student who attends the Quincy Public Schools, or a non-resident employee of the Quincy Public Schools. After giving his or her name and address, each speaker may make a presentation of no more than 3 minutes to the school committee. An individual may not exchange their time or yield to others. Residents or non-community persons may submit written statements of up to 300 words to the school committee at qscopenforum@quincypublicschools.com by 4 p.m. of the day prior to the posted school committee regular meeting. Written statements will be posted on the school committee section of the Quincy Public Schools website by noon on the day of the posted school committee regular meeting. Is there anyone here tonight that'd like to speak for open forum? Oh, you know what? Yep.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Laura Moy. I live at 41 Silver Street. I'm the parent of a Clifford Marshall graduate. She's here. I was given permission to point her out. She's now a ninth grader at Quincy High. My own daughters, I want to speak to the issue of fifth grade in elementary schools. My own daughter's experience was that of going from Clifford to 1 year at Point to Central for the AP program. While all of those were great, the transition was incredibly difficult for her. She was sent home in March of 2020 for COVID, so that meant a lot of remote schooling. And then in a period that was difficult and stressful and anxiety-producing, having to meet a whole second staff and a whole different group of people. I also been given permission to share a story about a friend whose child was at Lincoln Hancock, who then went to Southwest in fifth grade, of course. She fell in with a tough crowd that bullied, that had access to vapes, which ended in a suicide attempt. She has now been pulled out of Quincy schools and is in a Catholic school. Fifth graders belong in elementary school. Let's put them back.
A little more old school. Hi, my name is Alexis Veith. I live at 815 Southern Artery. I'm the parent of 2 QPS students, a junior at Quincy High and an 8th grader at Central Middle School. However, both of my children attended 5th grade at Point Webster Middle School, while the majority of their peers were still ensconced in the gentle and supportive embrace of their elementary school. I want to be clear that I'm not here to denigrate any of the excellent work that's done by the administration, staff, and teachers at Point Webster or Southwest. My kids have attended both Point and Central, and what stands out across both middle schools is that middle schoolers will be middle schoolers no matter where they are, and that is the point. Only the 5th graders at Point and Southwest have to navigate the complication of sharing space and extracurriculars with kids who are significantly more physically and socially developed. In every other neighborhood school, 5th graders get to take their place as the eldest students in their building and spend that year developing confidence, leadership skills, and social skills that middle school demands. And I have heard all the reasons why these 2 specific neighborhoods have to send their kids to middle school early. There's housing density, there's demographic issues. And I was told all about how fifth graders follow an elementary school schedule and an elementary school curriculum, and that they're kept separate from grades 6 to 8. And that it's not sending fifth graders to middle school, it is housing fifth graders in a middle school building. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. These fifth graders are middle schoolers. They see themselves as middle schoolers, they are treated as middle schoolers, and they act like middle schoolers with all of the questionable decision-making and impulsivity that that implies. They're in the yard with eighth graders between classes, they're sharing bathrooms, they're sharing the hallways between classes, they're at the dances together, they're at the school play together. They have to be. They have no alternative. The only alternative would be to have no clubs at all because they can't go back to their elementary school. They aren't students there either. Both my children were also in the AP program at Central starting in 6th grade, and that was great. But as my predecessor just mentioned, it also meant they had to attend 2 new schools in the span of just 2 years, a difficult and overwhelming adjustment that the vast majority of their AP peers did not have to deal with. I've heard in previous meetings members of this body imply that not many parents actually care about this as an issue, and I assure you that just because you aren't hearing it doesn't mean they don't care. When I met other AP parents at Central, many of them didn't even know that Clifford Marshall and Lincoln Hancock end at 4th grade. And when I told them about that, the universal response was dismay for the kids and relief that it wasn't them. I think if you tried to make the new Squantum School K-4, or you told Beechwood or Marymount that their students were going to middle school in 5th grade, you would find out how much people in this town care about that. I think it would impact how they vote. There are new school buildings coming online, including the new St. Mary's School, and I think you have an excellent opportunity to do the right thing for future 5th graders of Quincy. You can restore equity to the educational experience of kids in Quincy Point and West Quincy, and you can give them back a year of childhood that's been stolen from a generation of kids who came before them. And I'm not asking you to do this because it benefits my family. That ship has sailed. I'm asking you to do it because it's the fair thing to do for our kids, and it is the right thing to do for our city. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the school committee, for allowing me to speak. My name is Deborah Riley, and I live at 9 Langrain Street. I've been attending many committee, commission, and board meetings in recent months. Ooh, sounds terrible. In an effort to be better informed and engaged citizen, and to better understand how our local government operates. I have not attended a recent school committee meeting for a number of reasons. The most obvious is that this is an elected body rather than appointed. So you've been chosen by the constituents to represent our interests. Another reason is that the meetings are live streamed and recorded for later viewing. Thank you to QATV for providing that invaluable service. Finally, I no longer have kids attending Quincy Public Schools, so my interest is more as a taxpayer than a parent. However, I still pay attention. I pay attention to the business that comes before you and the decisions that are made here, including the 3 times that this board ignored the overwhelming public support to recognize Lunar New Year on the school calendar. I come here before you tonight concerned that the agenda for tonight's meeting was not properly noticed to the public as required under the state's open meeting laws. Seeing the council meeting scheduled on the city calendar, I looked yesterday for an agenda. There was none posted. I checked again earlier today and found none. The only way that I knew that what was to be discussed here tonight was that one committee member, Courtney Perdios, posted it on her Facebook page. While some of you are announcing your re-election plans, the public is left to wonder exactly what you've done in the last 4 years. The state's open meeting laws exist for a reason, to promote openness and transparency in government. The notice must include all topics the chair can reasonably anticipate will be discussed and specific enough to inform the public of the topics on the agenda at least 48 hours in advance. How can the public participate if they can't find out what is being discussed? How can we feel welcome to submit public comment when this body voted to reduce the time available from 5 minutes to 3 minutes? And the deadline to submit a written statement, as was previously announced in this meeting, for the record, is 4 o'clock on the day prior to the meeting. This is an ever-shrinking public forum. The responsibility does not fall on some behind-the-scenes IT person or clerical personnel. It should be as prominent and easy to find as entertainment and open space announcements. I ask you to postpone the business plan for this evening so the public can exercise their right to participate in an open and transparent process. Thank you.
there anyone else?
Hi, Mayor, Vice Chair Cahill, fellow members of the school committee, Superintendent Movie. I went on the walk this weekend. It was great. The turnout was amazing. We bumped into Principal Mitchell during the walk. She had over a dozen students at Southwest with her. I think the school bus was a great idea. It made it accessible for them. And then also bumped into Principal Loftus at Peacefield. The flowers there were beautiful. It's great to see our school leaders out amongst the community during non-school times. And then touching on last meeting's topic about Deli Chiesa. So as someone that's with children at Lincoln Hancock, having and knowing that the space issues there, making Deli Chiesa available is a good thing. We have a need at the school. We see there were classes in the hallways, classes in non-secure areas. And then we have a city building not being used where we could renovate and make that usable. So I would like the members here to have that discussion and then say I do. So on that, and then also tomorrow, Lincoln Hancock, we have our Multicultural Day. I'll invite you guys over. We have Lincoln Hancock Pride there. Thank you. Oh, my name's Kai Lee from 42 Presidents. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all set? Thank you. Next, we'd like to go to the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. First item on the agenda is our MSBA school survey. The Massachusetts School Building Authority periodically collects data on the over 2,000 public school buildings throughout the state through their decennial school survey process. The first step in the process is a written survey, approximately 150 questions for each of 18 Quincy Public School buildings, which was substantially completed today. Squantum is not a part of the survey as it's a proposed new building and is in the queue for replacement. The second step is in-person visits at each building from the MSBA staff and an outside consulting firm, which will happen over 6 days beginning tomorrow. These visits are largely focused on building mechanicals, and the visitors will be accompanied by public buildings staff members. Of course, the Public Buildings Department, led by Paul Hines, has been excellent in this process in getting all of data that we need, as well as Mrs. Owens coordinating all of those efforts. The school survey process is mandated by state regulation, and the information gathered is used by the MSBA in evaluating statements of interest for future projects. Of course, as always, thanks to the MSBA for their support for the Squantum Elementary School project and the many other Quincy Public School projects. They have collaborated with us over the last 20 years. So obviously, we'll update you as the process moves forward and is completed. But again, special thanks to Paul Hines and the Public Buildings Department. Next is the high school athletics update, following up on the athletics subcommittee from March 12th, information about establishing a co-op high school ice hockey team, and a short survey was shared with the parents and guardians of current players in grades 9 through 11 and Quincy youth hockey players in grade 8 of the survey was shared with you. Out of 38 players surveyed, 28 families have responded positively, supporting the co-op plan, with 21 families, or over 75%, in favor. In addition, Athletic Director Kevin Mahoney notified me last week that due to the high interest in spring track for this season, Quincy High School and North Quincy High School will be split into individual teams. And this is a good example of the co-op process at work. When interest declined in this particular sport, the co-op team structure allowed students from both high schools the opportunity to compete and be successful, which led to increased interest and participation over time, and of course, the need to split the teams because they're too large. So back to a Quincy, North Quincy High, separate teams. That is our hope with the hockey program moving forward, but I just wanted to update you on the survey and the response and the status of the hockey program.
Mr. Superintendent?
I just have a question. Is Mr. Mahoney going to put that request in?
Yes,
He is,
yes,
okay.
he is.
Could you let us know when it goes in?
Of course, yep, and we'll let you know the decision as well of the MIA and the league.
Thank you.
Last Friday, students from both high schools were part of the 78th Annual Massachusetts Student Government Day at the State House. High school seniors from all over the state participated in a legislative session in the roles of their city or town state delegation. Quincy High School's Layla Belfade filled the role of Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano, and of course she did a great job. And Rob Embrice was Representative Tacky Chan. North Quincy High School's Amy Tan was Senator John Keenan, and Lillian Carey was a Senate alternative. The students debated Senate Bill 335, which is focused on ensuring distraction-free education for youth through the restricting of electronic devices in schools. Of course, the school committee is way ahead in that area. And of course, we look forward to the future careers of these outstanding students. Congratulations to them, and obviously thanks to them for their participation in this event. I have to say the state delegation was very impressed by how our students performed at the State House, so that was great. April, as you know, is Autism Acceptance Month, which celebrates and honors the experiences and identities of individuals, emphasizing understanding, inclusion, and support, moving beyond awareness towards meaningful acceptance. Autism Acceptance Month recognizes that autism is more than a diagnosis. It is a community and a lived experience that encompasses both challenges and triumphs. Throughout Autism Acceptance Month, Quincy Public Schools will participate in awareness events and share educational resources that create pathways for neurodiversity inclusion. And at your places, you'll see that there is a T-shirt for you from the Richard DeCristofaro Learning Center. That is a small thank you for this committee's dedication to our autism population here in the Quincy Public Schools. Obviously, your support of the RDLC and the amazing things that happen at that school. Thank you, of course, to the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Perkins, and Special Education Director Julie Graham, and all of the staff and students at RDLC for making that a reality. But again, it is all because of your support that we're able to have such a great school. And of course, that is the best honor, in my opinion, with regard to Autism Acceptance Month. So thank you for that, and enjoy your T-shirts. Next, the Quincy Public Schools High School Robotics Program, Team Hyper, recently competed at the first robotics competition at the University of Vermont. Team Hyper had a very successful showing as they competed in 12 qualification matches and earned a spot in the playoffs, finishing in an impressive 6th place out of 32 teams from across New England, which is amazing. Congratulations to the students from both high schools on the team, along with the 5 alumni mentors who made the trip in support of the team. Our alumni mentorship in this particular program is really amazing. It's a dedicated group of alumni who participated in robotics back in the day and continue to be a huge asset for us moving forward for our students, maintaining those connections, and of course, making sure the program is successful and our students are able to successfully compete and succeed. So thank you to them, and of course, all the staff who make that possible for our students. Quincy Public Schools and City of Quincy events. The Historical Walk, as was mentioned at the open forum, was held this past Saturday, April 5th, and although the weather was cloudy and chilly, the turnout was really outstanding, with over 1,000 students, parents, staff members, and administrators participating. Special thanks to Executive Director Keith Segala, Director Michael Marani, the principals, administrators, assistant principals, SLT, Quincy Public Schools staff members who are all involved in the planning of this wonderful event. I think our students and our families had an amazing time, and certainly thanks to the city and the Parks Department and the Adams Historical Sites for making that a reality for us as well. So thank you all. It was a great day. Today was the annual Quincy High School Cultural Fair, where students shared their family's heritage through sharing food, music, and cultural dress. Thank you especially to Assistant Principal Ed Smith, the Quincy High School staff, and students for organizing this great event. Dr. Perkins and I had the opportunity to go there today to view the event, and it was amazing. So many different cultures, so many different amazing foods. Thank you again to everyone who made that possible. The spring concert season continues with the combined high school band concert, which will be held on Thursday, April 10th at 6 p.m. at North Quincy High School, and the combined high school solo and ensemble recital on May 7th at 6 p.m. at North Quincy High School. A full schedule of spring concerts will be shared at an upcoming meeting. The Point Webster Middle School Drama Club is presenting Honk on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m. in the school's auditorium. A Parent Academy on Developing Math Fluency for Parents and Guardians of Students in grades 3 to 5 will be held on Tuesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. at the Clifford Marshall Elementary School. The City of Quincy's annual Cleaner Greener event will be held on Saturday, May 3rd from 9 a.m. to noon at school and park sites throughout the city, followed by the Mayor's Appreciation Cookout at Pageant Field at 12:30. Hope to see you there. And finally, there will be an English Learner Parent Advisory Council meeting on Thursday, May 8th on Zoom. We are looking forward to reviewing the new EL curriculum and sharing information about summer programs in Quincy with families. So with that, that concludes the superintendent's report. There's a lot going on, obviously, in the city.
Lebo has
I have a comment and a question. I just want to go back to item D, Autism Acceptance Month.
Yes.
And I want to say, I don't know how many of you people saw what happened in Springfield to the ESSER money? $6 million is being clawed back from Springfield.
Yes,
The
we did
projects
see
that
that.
And I just want to
Yes.
thank the mayor and the team for making sure that center got built when the money was there. And we were allowed to put a lot of the ESSER fund into that building, and it was brilliant because some cities, I mean, it was more than $100 million across the state, but Springfield alone, I think, was $46 million.
It was $106 million across the state, and unfortunately, those cities and towns did not spend the ESSER money when they probably should have.
And even though they've contracted for it, they're still losing it, so
right.
I don't know what they're going to do.
But
So
it
I just
has
want-
been clawed back.
I just wanted to say how forward-thinking it was for us to get that done at that time, even though it was a difficult time. And the other thing I want to say is the historical walk, though I didn't do it, I was doing a different walk that day. But my husband did it with one of my grandchildren, and he said it could not have been better organized.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I just wanted to also provide a comment on the Quincy High Cultural Fair today. It was, I really enjoyed, I know every school sort of does their multicultural celebrations differently. I know during Open Forum, we heard about Lincoln Hancock's coming up. And sometimes at night, it's difficult for families to get there, but I think for Quincy High to do it, like how they do it during the school day, with every grade being able to come down and visit it, it just, I was there today, I was there last year, it's so great. The kids are just genuinely happy to be there and be celebrating each other's cultures, and just the food, they get so excited about the food. I got my henna tattoo, and it's just, it's really, really great to see students be able to take part in it, and they don't have to stay after school to do that. So I think that was a really great opportunity for them. So I just wanted to say thank you for
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
lost my concentration. Okay, next we have old business, which would be proposed CVTE regulation changes. Dr. Perkins and Mr. Segala.
Dr. Perkins and Mr. Scala make their way up. You're already here. So. As you're making your way up, as you know, we've prepared a letter for your consideration to be sent to many people, but including the, obviously, the Commissioner of Education, the Chair of the Board of Education, the Governor, the Commissioner of DZ, and many, many others. So I'll hand the presentation over to Dr. Perkins and Executive Director Segala to run through that with you, but I know you've all seen the letter at this point. I think it's a comprehensive letter. It captures the concerns that not only this board has, but many people have throughout the state. And I think it's important to make sure that the Commissioner of Education and the Board of Education know what the concerns are of this district as well as the district across the state. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Perkins.
Thank you. Yep, so as the superintendent said, you have the letter. that Ms. Owens very kindly edited for us and shared with you all. And so what we're just asking tonight is that if you haven't read it, obviously, that you take a minute to read it. We presented on the concerns last week, and we would just ask for your support and ultimately your signature. So I know that Ms. Owens has, I think, the original ready to be signed if you're comfortable to do so. And we just greatly, greatly appreciate the school committee's support on what we feel is a significant issue and could potentially not only have an impact on our programs, but also CVTE programs statewide.
And then we know many of you have contributed to this letter, so we thank you very much for your contribution to this draft.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. So when we got this email, emailed out to us, were there any changes made by my colleagues from the original form that we made, or is this the same one? So the edits were made before it was sent out to us, just so I know what I'm looking for to change this?
The changes are in there.
I think the changes were made.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the changes are in.
Okay.
Yep.
Since the last meeting, there were changes. We expanded some of the points based on suggestions that people made during the meeting.
No, I meant when we got it emailed out to us today,
There hasn't
when it
been
was
any
made?
changes
Okay, that's what I
since
meant, the most recent one we were emailed. I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure there weren't any changes since then, because
No.
on that email, it said for anybody to message over any changes they wanted made, just
Yep.
clarifying. Thank you.
Thanks.
My question would be, we're going to send this letter. Is there any physical person-to-person, any kind of meeting that we can go to, support this?
There is a
Did that
BO,
happen, anything like that?
Department of Board of Education meeting coming up
Yeah.
in May for a vote.
Okay.
There is,
This is due by the 18th.
Yeah.
yes.
Comment period ends on the 18th.
Oh, no, I want to sign this now.
Yeah.
But I'm
I think-
asking if there's a,
Sorry.
no, if there's a time for us that we can also go
I
and
think
kind
there's
of.
a time for you to call the governor's office. I really do. If we could find out what that number is. Yeah, because I think we should all call. I think it's on the governor. There's a lot of opposition to it, so.
Do you have any thoughts about going in person to their meeting when they vote?
Well, they do have, the Board of Education does have I believe like what we have, an open forum, and you can go and you can speak, in opposition. I mean, I think that's really your call. I think Ms. Lebo is right. I think a phone call to the governor's office, I think this letter, I do think they're going to get flooded with concerns. I know that the vocational schools are asking, they're robocalling parents. They're really trying to get people out there in opposition of these new changes.
We have business partners as well.
Program advisory teams, yes?
Yeah,
Yep.
so if you want to just talk a little bit about that, 'cause
Sure.
it's not just us.
Tomorrow morning, we're mailing out a letter that we drafted for the program advisory teams to sign and submit together as a team, as well as the principals, both high schools, Quincy North, and myself, another letter of opposition. So the program advisory teams, high school administration, is supporting the opposition as well.
I plan to send my own letter.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay.
Do we
So,
need a motion?
Do we need a
to
motion?
endorse it?
Yeah.
Yes, first, motion is second, all in favor.
I'll make a motion. The committee endorses it and we'll sign it.
Mr. Guttrow, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. You sign,
Thank
are
you.
we going to sign it tonight?
Thank you for your support.
After the meeting? Okay,
Thank you both.
thank you. In new business, we have the school nutrition program update with Mr. Four and Ms. Bryant. Oh, no.
Good evening. Well, thank you for having me again. Thank you for having me every year. It's always a pleasure to come here. My favorite topic is nutrition, so being able to share that, as well as the work that we do in the cafeterias, is exciting for me, so thank you. The meal you have in front of you tonight is just some examples of some food that we provide the kids. I have a lot of food out there too at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Nice.
The meal you're going to sample tonight is an example of some of the stuff that we do create in our cafeterias. I wanted to bring in all the cultural stuff that we do because we never try to stick to one type of food, one type of place. We really want all the kids in our cafeterias to experience something different. So you're going to see some appetizers, you're going to see some main stuff, and you're going to see some dessert. So I'll go through that. To start, you are tasting a Bavarian pretzel with sweet and spicy mustard and an Obatsta sauce. This is in honor of the mayor's heritage, so I thought that that would be something to add. One of our head cooks at the North Quincy High Elementary School side is Lebanese, and she always makes the fattoush salad on our North Quincy High salad bar, so it's a fan favorite. That's the salad you're trying on your plate. And then we stuck with the basics on this one, chicken tenders. The kids love it, but how do you make chicken tenders a little bit more exciting and a little bit more diverse in culture? We have 3 different sauces in front of you. One is the Korean barbecue sauce. Thank you. One is the Japanese curry, thank you so much, Japanese curry sauce, and the other is a shawarma sauce. They're all labeled in front of you. A lot of different cultures do serve fried chicken. We do as well, but in this case it's baked, and those sauces are for dipping to trying different cultural foods. And then lastly, this Valentine's Day, we always do a Love Your Heart option, meaning it's vegetarian. So taking care of your heart by eating something vegetarian, and that is our Love Your Heart fruit and yogurt bowl with coconut and chickpea chocolate drizzle with a cinnamon maple flatbread. This is a vegetarian option, as mentioned, and it also utilizes beans and legumes, which is part of our nutritional requirement that we have to serve every week. So just to go over some of the stuff we do every year, and this is something we're really proud of. We've been doing it for 3 years. It's our work with Project Bread. We received a grant fellowship through them, and that means we get 2 chefs in our kitchens a couple days a week for the last 3 years, so this is our 3rd year. They offer some amazing benefits to us. They give us some recipe development, help us be a little bit more creative in our kitchens. They give us some training on culinary tips and tricks. We explore some plant-based options. They've built up our salad bars for us, giving some new, fresh ideas on a daily basis. And we do a monthly virtual training. We have to do a professional development with our staff, so they get that training in for us. And it helps, we do some team building exercises with them, and we do taste tests with the students. So it's been really great, and we're hoping to get them maybe for 1 more year, so we'll see. So one of the things I realized I haven't really explained much since I've been here, but we've been doing it since before I started and continue to do it through my years here, is the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. It is now expanded as of last year. When I started, we were doing 3 schools. Now we're doing all elementary schools. So just to give you some information about the Fresh Fruit and Veggie Program, it's a federally funded program for elementary school age children where they can receive a fresh fruit or vegetable option as a snack during their school day. It is fully funded by the government. We don't have to pay for these things. We do have to outsource them, find locally grown products, something that works with our community, and we get them out to our schools and we serve them. So some of the things that we do, we've tried mango, pineapple, snow peas, broccoli, grapes, tomatoes. Next year we're going to try papaya. So we're trying to give some new and fun ideas to the kids. The vegetables are not a hit, and we try very hard to get them excited about it, but we're leaning into some exotic fruits to make it a little bit more exciting. But the goal is to allow kids to try something maybe that they don't get at home, and just expand their horizons on different fruits and vegetables. So we continue to have dietetic interns. It's a huge benefit for us. It's something that I did when I was a nutrition student. You have to do a full year internship before you even get to work in the field. And we have expanded the enticement, I guess you would say, to dietitians in the school nutrition world. A lot of times when you go to school, they're pushing you to go into hospitals, to work in private practice, community settings like WIC or the Greater Boston Food Bank. But when I did my rotation in food service, it kind of opened up this career that I didn't know I wanted or I didn't even know existed, and it led me into this world. So I love it. I get these new and excited interns and teach them how great this job is and how fun it can be and how they can utilize all facets of their interest, whether it's business or marketing, and then of course the nutrition part. So we get some really great interns, and they provide us with some new recipes. They give us some cutting edge nutrition information that they post on our social medias for us. They give us extra hands in the kitchen, which is always hugely helpful. And they also provide innovative educational sessions for our children. So each year there's usually an assembly at an elementary school where one or two of the nutrition interns will come and do a full assembly-wide nutrition education program for the kids. So we've talked a lot through the years about the regulations that school nutrition is required to follow in our meal patterns, but one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is how we got here. What's the history behind school nutrition, and how have we fed these kids all through the history of our education system? So prior to the Great Depression and World War I, meals were usually provided through the local school committee or food banks, state to state funded, and it was really just targeting those kids that looked like they needed food and feeding them because maybe those kids weren't walking home to their mom and dad's house and getting fed during the day and walking back. So it was really just kind of a one-off program that each individual state was working towards. And then in June of 1946, President Truman signed the National School Lunch Act. This was a huge benefit to families around the country, but the biggest benefit that people may not realize is it was used for national security. They realized that when soldiers were being drafted into war, they weren't healthy enough to even fight. And a lot of them were sent home. So they thought, we need to bulk up these kids, we need to get them healthy, and we need them eating during their school day so that they can get to the point where we can use them should we need to. It was also a way to reduce hunger. That was the other benefit. And then lastly, it supported American agriculture. So farmers were benefiting from this program as well. Then in 1966, Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Child Nutrition Act of 1966, and this included breakfast in the school day. So this was a huge move towards recognizing that a child's day needs to be filled with nutrition to learn. And he was the first president to connect learning with nutrition. He was quoted as saying, "Good nutrition is essential to good learning." Then in the 70s, fast food entered the fold and crept into our cafeterias. McDonald's and Burger King were allowed to sell products in schools as federal regulations on nutrition standards reduced. And then in the 80s, $1 billion of federal funds were cut from the National School Lunch Program and the Breakfast Program. And this is with the famous phrase we've all heard, ketchup is now a vegetable. And that's when it was allowed. Yeah. And then in the 90s, both packed lunches and lunches in our cafeterias were poor nutritional quality. This is enters the trans fat era where food manufacturing companies were looking for cheap ways to keep food on, stable longer on shelves. So that was the way to do it. You add trans fat, suddenly a 1-month stable cracker could be a 6-month stable cracker. And no one was the wiser. We thought, this is great, we'll consume the trans fat. We learned more in the 2000s, and as we did some actual studies on the children and the adults that have grown up through these years, we learned that obesity rate had doubled in children from that decade prior, and obesity-related hospital stays were up by 24%. Then in 2010, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kid Act was enacted. This is when I was in nutrition school and kind of enticed me into this world. It increased the amount of low-income children that directly qualified, so we were capturing more kids that needed it, and there was a significant overhaul of nutrition regulations in our meals. We also had the Let's Move campaign in 2010, which created a public awareness effort to improve health of children. And then, of course, we were all here in 2023, Massachusetts signed free meals into law. So that was a huge event for us last year. and Massachusetts was the 8th state to do so, the 8th and final. So no more states have done it, but we still have those 8. And now we're here in 2025, looking towards 2026, and we don't know what the future holds, but we are happy to continue to do what we do. So just to give you some benefits that have happened since we've been a free meal program, there's no overt identification at the register. Of course, we never did this to begin with, but there's always that conversation that could happen that the cashier can't control between two kids. So no longer should a child feel uncomfortable going to the lunch line worried that people might know that they're the free student. So that removes that stigma. It increased the participation, which in turn increased revenue for our program. It allowed us to hire more. And then there was no more unpaid meal debts. So there's no longer a national conversation about a child being scolded at the lunch line for having debts. We don't have to worry about that. And then from a parent's perspective, there's money being saved, there's time being saved. It boosts revenue for your schools. It creates a cohesive environment for children to learn, and it builds that community. So I thought I'd give you a chart of how the meals have increased through the years, starting in 2015. Between 2015 and 2019, we were steady around a similar amount of meals, both breakfast and lunch. And as you can see, our COVID years were a little bit crazy because we had low attendance due to COVID. And then from 2021 up till now, we just keep going up. And we think we can probably hit over 1 million meals for lunch in this school year. And of course, our breakfast goes up as well. So people are utilizing this service, whether they have food insecurity in their home or not, they're utilizing this service. So it's a really great thing. And we're finding that all of our schools, we're just serving everyone, and it's great. And we've been able to hire more, and we've been able to get a little bit more creative with the funding, with the food that we supply. So again, with the funding that we have received, we've bought some new equipment. Last year, I told you we bought a food service truck, so that's up and running. Refrigerated food service truck's working well. This year, we bought a refrigerated van. This is to help with the increased fresh fruit and veggie program. So we have a separate driver who's been hired part-time to get the fresh fruit and vegetables in his van and just distribute it throughout the district. RDLC is full service kitchen now. This isn't a part of our funding, but we are so psyched to be able to feed smaller children from a kitchen that can do it all versus pulling it from North Quincy. So in that regard, we're able to create some fun menu items. They're, instead of the mac and cheese coming from North Quincy High, they're making the mac and cheese there. It's fresher. The kids can smell it in the hallway. It's just a whole different experience. Fresher ingredients, and we're able to create more variety meals for everyone. So there's not just one option, there's a couple options daily, and then we have better options for allergy meals. And then the exciting news I wanted to share with you, we're going to take some of the extra revenue that we've received through the free program, and we're going to build a whole new kitchen at Lincoln Hancock and pull that from the satellite program at North Quincy High. So that's about 400 to 450 meals a day that will no longer be satellited through the North Quincy. It'll be cooked in the kitchens, same thing, fresh ingredients, more options, more variety, more allergy-friendly things. And this is just the architectural design of how it's going to be. We're going to take the closet storage space behind it, knock down that wall. We can build a whole new walk-in refrigerator, a combination oven that both steams and bakes food. We get a dishwasher, 3-bay sink, tons of tables, refrigerator, warmers, milk coolers, registers, a whole serving line. It's going to be really great. So we're hoping that's going to be completed by September. Superintendent Mulvey and Paul Hines have been instrumental in helping move this forward. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait to see what it looks like and get it going. So I thought I'd share with you some fun pictures of things that we've done. We always try to create something fun if it's a holiday, or if salad bar options and salad bar meals that kids have created. For St. Patrick's Day, we had a nice little yogurt with some green sprinkles and an Oreo cookie. For April Fool's Day, we try to do something a little bit quirky. This year we did meatball cupcakes with mashed potato frosting, kind of get the kids giggling a little bit, have a little fun with the holiday. We do a big spread for Lunar New Year's. Every day is a new, different Asian-based meal, whether it's barbecue Korean chicken or chicken katsu, which North Quincy High has created. We really get in there and try to figure out what are the kids eating at home, what are the cultural dishes that will excite them, what will they not expect us to be able to serve, and then we try to do it. Just some pictures of the team, thought I'd share. And I just wanted to run down a list of some dishes that we've created this year that the kids really liked. Corned beef and cabbage sandwich for, of course, St. Patrick's Day. Chicken and veggie dumplings for Lunar New Year. Chicken tahini and rice with the fattoush salad that you've tried. Chicken katsu curry, barbecue chicken, or Korean barbecue chicken. Chicken or beef not so fried rice. Adobo chicken from the Philippines. Shawarma chicken, banh mi sandwiches. Soy ginger glazed tofu, and then if you all are familiar with the viral TikTok trend of the one pot feta and tomato pasta, that was a big hit too. So we try to get some fun stuff in there. And that is it. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Mrs. Perdios?
Thank you so much for the food,
Yes.
first of all, and for all the work you put into the program. I'm always impressed with the way you talk about it, and you can tell you have just a love for this field, and that you're definitely leading the right department. So, and I also kind of share that health kind of healthy food background. So I appreciate that, bringing it to our kids in so many different ways. So thank you for that. Couple questions. So how many of our schools are having fresh meals made there? And how many of our schools are just reheating the ones that are coming that are packed at, is it North?
Yeah. So, the 5 middles they have their own kitchens, so they're cooking. The 2 high schools are cooking. RDLC is cooking, and then all the others, so it's 10. 10 schools are getting the North Quincy High satellite food.
Okay, great, thank you. I wasn't sure, and this Lincoln Hancock remodel is definitely an attempt to start to whittle that down
Yes.
too. So is that the plan, to sort of keep
Yes.
trying to funnel some money into renovating when you can, when
Yep.
space provides?
I'd hope that my time here, my legacy would be that we can rid ourselves of the satellite program and get as many schools on this own kitchen process as we can, bring us to the new age.
That's awesome. So thank you for that. How much of what you do is dependent on federal funding? I'm just sort of looking ahead, and I'm sure you are too, just being anxious about how many of these programs that you're able to offer now are we going to still be able to fund and carry through?
So it's a complicated question because the federal program CEP, which is that there's the direct certification process of a person's financial status. So instead of us looking at a paper application where mom and dad says, I make this amount per week or this amount per month, I need free meals, we don't do that anymore. We do through a direct certification. So if mom or dad apply for SNAP or need housing or on Medicaid, all these different services, they find themselves on a government database that we can then see, and then we certify them as free or reduced based on that. And then if we have a certain amount of identified student percentage, it's an ISP, then we can say we're X percentage CEP. And then the government looks at our percentage and says, okay, you qualify to call that school a CEP school. Well, in Quincy, we're all CEP, but that's because during COVID, they went from 40% to 25%. So we fit CEP everywhere. And if you're a CEP, you get your money from the federal government. What chatter I've heard out there, and I don't know if this is going to happen or what's going to happen, is they might higher that threshold, which means that then we wouldn't fall in a CEP at some of those schools, and then we'd get our money through the state government. And if the state government can still do it with all these schools, because we have the millionaire's tax that covers this, then we'll continue as we do. But if the state of Massachusetts says we're pinched, we don't have enough funds in the millionaire's tax to keep this free meal program in Massachusetts, then we could go back. So there's just a lot of things. The fresh fruit and veggie program is federal, so that could change based on the percentage of students in that school. All they could do is maybe higher the threshold, and then we might not fit, and then they pull back some of these programs. If we go back to free, paid, and reduced, then kids pay or they don't pay. We're back to where we were pre-COVID. That does reduce our funds. It also reduces how much we serve. So it does kind of potentially balance out. But we'll see. We just don't know.
Yeah, thank you for your thoughts on that. I know how important these programs are to our kids, so I hope nothing changes. I hope the state's able to cover any gaps if anything happens, but thank you for opining on how that might work. Are we, so I remember last year when you were in, I had asked you about, so now that or now for now, we all have free lunch. Is there still continued communication going out to families about how to get back any money that was previously on their My School Bucks accounts?
Yeah, after we spoke, I put out communication to principals about that. We can always do that annually to make sure parents know, but we don't get too many questions about that. We get maybe one a month, and we send the money right back. They come to us, we have them fill out a form, and then within a month, they get a check mailed to their home.
Yeah, that would be great if we could just kind of keep that going. I know at some point it's going to be, if the free meals continue, we're going to eventually get to the point where people haven't put the money on there at first, but we still have those families that may not know. And as the cost of everything is going up, that little bit might help. So if we just kind of maybe did another push on that, that would be great. And then my last question was protein. As kind of the world more and more, as we evolve, you kind of described the evolution of how society has seen health and healthy foods. And everything now is a little bit more focused on protein. And are you trying to get more protein in different ways, or is that something that you guys are focusing on or thinking about, or?
Well, it's challenging because we have a we have a meat alternate requirement for each age group. And if you go over it, you could go over the calories, you can go over the sodium, so you do have to keep it within that. Being a dietitian, the nutrition regulations are awesome, but there are flaws. And I think that it needs to be constantly evaluated and checked because we learn more about nutrition and what we need. Some of the things on a completely different topic is beans, legumes. We know they're healthy, we know we want kids to eat them. They don't. And then they're wasted, but we have to serve them. So I think the conversation of nutrition, and I'm on a call with the Department of Ed, Nutrition Department monthly, and we talk about these things, but ultimately those do come down from the federal government. And so, yeah, they would have to make that decision so that we can increase our calories because protein's going to increase our calories. We still have to count the milk in the calories, but children may not drink milk or they may have an intolerance to milk. We don't get to have other alternatives outside of soy milk where, kids like other things or they might have a soy allergy. So there's challenges to each individual children's needs, and the nutrition regulations are very blanketed to pick like the most, normal, no allergies, no other health issues child, and that doesn't always work that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
All right.
challenging.
Well, thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
your questions. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Hubley.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you for the presentation, and the food was
Thank
very
you.
good, thank you. So around milk, that was my question. I had been reading something the other day that was saying that there was potential that we could go back to whole milk or offering whole milk. Was that like speculation or rumor,
Yeah.
or is that actually going to happen? Or
I mean, anything can happen, but I don't see that right now. We are still, as of now, required to serve skim milk if it's flavored, chocolate, or 1% if it's regular milk, but you can also do the skim milk, regular milk too. That's what we're required to do. So we'll see.
okay, and we
Yeah.
are still doing the chocolate milk with no problems.
We are doing the chocolate
I
milk,
swear
yeah.
when
Unless
this-
I'm told otherwise, I will keep it in there.
Yes, I was gonna say, way back when all the changes happened, I think that was one of the most calls I got was
Really?
people were very concerned that the chocolate milk was gonna go away, and I'm very glad that over the years
Yeah.
it hasn't gone anywhere.
I think
so.
they've done studies. I know in Providence they removed chocolate milk in the city of Providence, and they found that it didn't make kids go, oh, okay, I'll just have regular milk. They just didn't drink the milk.
Exactly.
And then they lost all that vitamin D and calcium in their diet. So yeah, we'll keep the chocolate milk.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Mr. Guttrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the food. I tried everything. It was exceptional. You continue to innovate.
Yeah.
Every year you innovate. The Bavarian mustard has a real kick to it.
That was special for you.
Yeah, that was for the mayor. That's quite a
You're
kick.
welcome.
Yeah, in the mustard. I too had questions about the federal funding and I know it's murky in
Yeah.
wherever you are, whether it's education or anywhere else in federal government. But I also know that there's kind of a sea change at the federal level around regulations, and I didn't know if you were aware of any regulations that were pending that are now frozen, or if there's talk in your world about any regulatory changes that might impact nutrition in the school lunch program.
Yeah, they're thinking about, or they're most likely will freeze, and I forget the exact name of it. It's like the Northeast grant funding, and it's basically around locally purchased food. We get a little extra money back if we buy locally. They've frozen that, and they don't know if they're going to continue. We were able to sign something through the portal, the Department of Ed portal, to say we want it, but we're just waiting to figure out what that is.
So at the moment, it's just freezing funding. It's
Yeah.
not changing regulations.
Right, no
Nutritional-
regulations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what's potentially going to happen first. Maybe it's the freezing of funding. I know the fresh food and veggie program, but could be on the chopping block. That's always just kind of an add-on for districts, and it's a fairly new program, so that
I mean,
could
we've
be.
come such a long way since
know.
trans fat, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and the obesity rates, you know, continue to be pressing, and we're in a good place, I think.
We are in
So
a good place,
Hopefully,
yeah.
we don't roll back, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Lebo.
Yeah, I just, thank you for the food and thank you for the presentation. Mrs. Hubley and I had the chance to visit the kitchens and the lunches at North Quincy High School and Quincy High School, and it was amazing to see. We were there during the week of Lunar New Year, and the kids absolutely loved the food that they were serving that day.
Yeah.
So it was, you can see the cultural implications. It was great to see. And I know that there's some snags at North Quincy High School because there are so many kids buying lunch, and it's not going to be an easy fix that I could see.
Yeah.
So sometimes they can't get, because you're so good, they can't get through the line fast enough because so many kids want to buy that food. So I'm not sure there's anything that can be done about it. It's a problem. But maybe in your tenure, you can
Cooking
think
up
of some
something,
magic
yeah.
thing. We were trying to rearrange the whole space for you, but it wasn't working out.
Yeah. It needs, yeah. I have ideas, but it'll take a while.
Take a while. Yeah, but we know you're on it too, so,
Yeah.
but it was just a great experience to spend that time in the cafeteria at both schools. The
Thank you.
workers were amazing,
Yes, they're a good team.
so thank you.
You're welcome.
Girls, do you want to add anything to the conversation? Since you are
Since you eat it.
since you are the customers?
I'm sorry I forgot about you over there, but I'm glad you got to have the food. Yeah.
I was just gonna let I saw like they had mangoes and talked about exotic fruit,
Mhm.
and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I was just curious, like, is there? I know it might be difficult. Is there like a way to get like vegetarian or vegan options like at the schools, like hot lunches? I know like some schools have salad bars.
What school are you at? Quincy High School. We do veggie patties and onion rings. That's on the April menu. We also do vegetarian nuggets. We try to find some fun sauces with that. There's a chicken sauce, but it's not chicken. And we also have the salad bars. And we do the yogurts and the cold options too. What kind of vegetarian options do you wish to see more of?
So like personally, me and like many of my friends also like we don't eat like meat, fish, or eggs. So I guess beans, milk, I think it's all fine for most people.
Okay. We always have beans. If you have any recipes that you like for beans, anything exciting, we're always looking for new things, and we're really trying to innovate with beans. We do get these chickpea ranch crunchers. They're like dried chickpea ranch crunchers. I don't know if you've had them. They're pretty good, and they're a good source of protein on there too. So we really try to I get that question a lot, so we try to do these different things. So if you have any specifics, we'll do it. We'll try it. We'll give it a whirl, especially on the salad bar. We really try to do fun stuff on that. So
Also, I'm just curious. Can there be like you ever guys have like Indian food on like one of the holidays?
we should. We should definitely. Yeah, that's something we'll work on for next year. You're welcome.
I'm going to go on that day. Let me know
Yeah,
when it is.
Yes, it is. So the chicken that you've had, we use that. Well, we use it for so many different products, but we've made chicken katsu curry with it, and we're going to put that again on the menu in May. We use the fattoush salad on the salad bar. The pretzels are something new we wanted to try out, so we're going to get that. They're freshly made pretzels, so we're going to get that on the menu. And the little desserts is something that we do offer as a special every once in a while. So yes. Yes. Yep. I also have the recipes too, which I leave here before I leave. Something if you want to try at home. You're welcome.
So, thank you. Superintendent.
Thank you. I just want to thank Sarah and her team, and of course Laurie Bryan, who works closely with you, Sarah. Sarah, since you got here, your goal has been to make our food here in the Quincy Public Schools not only more nutritious, but also more delicious and as fresh as possible. And you've made so many strides towards making that a reality, not only just in each and every school, but also where the food is made in the packing room. So people may think that it's just food carelessly packed up and sent to us. No, it's not. It's made with the freshest ingredients. It's made by a caring team at North Quincy High School. It's packed in the best packing materials. It is stored in the best way and shipped as fresh as possible to all of our schools. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But the other thing I want to talk about too is just the innovation of the facilities that has been happening school by school to the best of your ability. So the first one, of course, we saw that at the RDLC. Initially, the RDLC would have been a school that received the packed lunches. But through your leadership and the support of the mayor and this committee, we were able to put together a full-service kitchen, top-notch, at the RDLC. And I have to say, when the parents visit and they look at the kitchen, as well as the entire program, of course, but when they see the kitchen and they see that we can make food that's really tailored to our students who may have soft palate needs, who may have other nutritional needs, allergy needs, and you can accommodate all of that. It's just a huge selling point for our families at the RDLC. And I think that your work has helped contribute to keeping our students here in Quincy. And it's just another component to the big component of all the work that our staff does at the RDLC and our SLT here to make sure that that school is most welcoming to our students and providing them the best nutrition and care as possible. The second project that I'm super excited about is, of course, the Lincoln Hancock project. And as you mentioned, we're trying to expand full-service kitchen to all of our schools to the best of our ability. Some schools are easier to do than others. Certainly Lincoln Hancock, because of the work and support of the public buildings and support of the mayor and this committee, we were able to identify Lincoln Hancock as a facility where that could be possible. And of course, thanks to Mr. Mullaney and Paul Hines and yourself and Dr. Perkins for crunching the numbers. But without the work of the Public Buildings Department, who's doing a large amount of that work, we would never be able to afford it. So the in-house work that the Public Maintenance Department is doing to make that a reality is really key for making all of these expansions possible. So hopefully this is just one of many to come, but we're super excited about Lincoln Hancock and how that will help improve food service and nutrition there. But in summary, just thank you for your work. All of these initiatives are spearheaded by you, and we, of course, are here to support you in that initiative to make our food here in Quincy the best possible for our kids. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Pizza.
Pizza.
Do we have pizza still?
We do have pizza.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
We have
Just
it Monday,
checking.
Wednesday, Friday.
We need-
at the high school.
Monday,
meal.
Wednesday, and
For the
Friday.
kids once a week, the little ones. Yes.
Thank
Whole
you.
grain.
There you go. I'm
Thanks
going to
for
go
the
try
presents.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Next on the agenda, we have school choice participation. A roll call vote is needed. Superintendent.
Good evening again, everyone. So before you is my recommendation that the Quincy School Committee withdraw from enrolling non-resident students in the Quincy Public Schools for the 2025-2026 academic year for the following reasons: the level of current and projected enrollments at all elementary, middle, and high schools, and adherence to the Quincy School Committee policy on class sizes. For that reason, I would ask for the school committee vote to withdraw from enrolling in the non-residents into the school system.
Mrs. Lebo.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not participate in school choice and we withdraw from that.
Motion by Mrs. Lebo, second by Mrs. Hubley. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Begoli? Yes. Mrs. Cahill?
Yes.
Mr. Guttrow? Yes. Mrs. Hubley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebo?
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios?
Yes.
And Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda, which will need a roll call vote as well. Do we have a motion on the vote?
Just on that motion, on this consent agenda, there is a
Yeah.
student out-of-state travel that needs to be withdrawn as it's not ready yet for your consideration. And
Which
that
one?
would be the North Quincy High School to Quiz Bowl Nationals in Washington DC. We'll put that on the next agenda for your consideration.
Okay.
But otherwise, the consent agenda can remain unchanged.
Motion to approve.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Begoli?
Yes.
Mrs. Cahill?
Yes.
Mr. Guttrow? Mrs. Hubley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebo?
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios?
Yes.
And Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I know, that's next year. So before we go to that, I don't know if this would be an appropriate place, but can we have some clarification on the posting of the meeting agenda, please?
Yes, would you like to address
Sure.
that, Mrs. Owens?
Sure, yes. The meeting agenda was posted with the city clerk's office on Monday afternoon, as it always is, and it was posted on the Quincy Public Schools website as well. On the page where there's the list of dates, it did appear at the bottom of the page, not at the top where it usually is. It was there, it wasn't easy to find. I did fix that when I was notified that Mrs. Riley had told Mrs. Perdios that it was a problem. So it did pop up to the top of the page, but it was there posted.
Yeah, and it was posted at the city as well.
At the city as well, yes.
The only requirement is that it be posted at the city. Anything beyond that is just to assist and extra, so we certainly met the requirements of the open meeting law.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have communications. Upcoming school committee meetings will be at 6:30 PM, May 7th and May 21st, and June 11th. Subcommittee meetings begin at 6 PM, April 30th for special education, joint teaching and learning and policy. May 14th, 2025 will be a tentative meeting for the F 2026 budget and finance, facilities, security, and transportation. The next tentative meeting will be May 28th, FYI 2026 budget and finance, teaching and learning meetings.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I can add to that, May 6th, I'll be presenting the city budget to the city council, which means May 5th, and then May 7th, the school committee meeting. I'll just give a quick overview. That'll be on the agenda for May, and then, of course, we'll start our regular process.
Okay, thank you. Reports of subcommittees are none, and at this time, we will go into executive session. Do we have a motion to go into executive session? And we will not be returning.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Lebo, second by Mr. Begoli. Roll call vote?
Mr. Begoli? Yes. Mrs. Cahill?
Yes.
Mr. Guttrow? Yes. Mrs. Hubley?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebo?
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios? Yes. And Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.